it's like, oh shit, arm wrestle. Whoa! Oh, that was sick!
Hell yeah, man.
This is not to talk about technique or like how to get a job in the industry. It's more about the why of doing all this stuff, you know. With all you guys, like I remember
Can I turn the screen off?
Oh yeah, sure.
Will it still keep recording?
I think so. Oh yeah.
Sick. All right, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, so the point of this is to talk about like the why of doing all this stuff. And your guys' story is really interesting. It's like you met when you were like 14 years old, making comic or like little cartoons on Newgrounds, and then you just committed, and over 15 years you guys have built this YouTube channel where...
Fuck, dude. Are we 30?
Dude, I'm 27.
Almost. God damn.
I'm gonna be 30 in 3 fucking years. It's crazy.
That's scary.
Yeah, I've got how many months? 8
Not
months.
many.
8 months.
You're gonna be 30 years old. That's disgusting.
Are you 30?
29.
29.
Okay, crazy.
About to hit that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Big 3-0, baby.
I'm not enjoying this so far.
Oh, fuck. I'm highlighting the existential crisis.
Do better. Okay, let's start again.
Okay. The point of this is to talk
So
about God and
we've been doing this for about 2 years.
Yeah, young bucks in the game.
Yeah. Just got super lucky and got viral. And
I mean, more or less, like, basically.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I like when I look at all this stuff, like doing art in general, it's fucking difficult, you know. And whenever I talk to people who've done something that they're proud of or done something that they can make a living off of, at least, the common thread against all of them is like doing it for a long period of time versus getting really, really lucky in a single thing, you know. And I guess it's like I meet people all the time who are like wondering like, how do I become successful, or how do I get my start, or how do I like say things that are interesting to people. And across the board, again, it's like a having faith in your own ideas and doing it for a long period of time.
Yeah.
And with you guys, like you're like I see so many people trying to like pander their stuff, their art, or whatever they're making to a specific crowd. Whereas what you guys did, you make like the most ridiculous, offensive cartoons that you possibly can think of.
I think there was probably a fair degree of pandering going on.
Yeah, well,
you know, made a little Mario cartoon here and there.
Know,
we don't use that word anymore. No.
Pandering. Yeah. I mean, I'll say this, like, we definitely wanted to make parodies and stuff because that's what all of the people we loved were making, and it was fun. So it definitely didn't start as pandering, but as you get further into it, you realise a certain thing is going to hit better than something else because people are already familiar with the property, and then all you have to do is like overlay your own script and shit over a pre-existing understanding, and that makes it a lot more accessible, right?
I think at the end of the day, now we have to touch on it because it's been mentioned. Is this not recording anymore?
No, it's gone. I'm just making sure.
Like a degree of coming up with racist Mario was, we could do this character and that character and everybody's favorite character. Show up. But what it actually was literally that was around the time the Mario game was on Wii U, and it looked incredible. And we had been doing this YouTube thing, and we were not yet out of college, but almost out of college, didn't have jobs, couldn't go buy a console at that point, and we wanted to play the game. We literally had a passion for that game and made a cartoon about it. And I think maybe the mistake was not doing enough interesting stuff with the designs. It kind of was sort of an accident that it literally was as pandery as it was, because it was something we were passionate about. And I loved that cartoon. I thought it was really funny. The whole time.
Like, it wasn't defensive, don't we?
I
love that too.
But anyway, I wanted to touch on it briefly and then move on to what Tom is starting to talk about. So the space we're in, the way you make content and the way you get to make content is, it's making pop culture stuff, right? But we rarely make a cartoon that's just about that thing. It's more about it's kind of like South Park. It's like taking characters and paradigms and using them as a jumping forward to talk about something else that's outside of it. They're like satire vehicles for doing something more interesting. Right. And that's like we didn't make we love Transformers. I always loved G1 Transformers, and I always wanted to make a Transformers cartoon, but like the script wasn't about how cool Transformers was. You know, it's just like it's a catalyst to have a script about something that's kind of, I think, higher and more interesting than just making like a Transformers parody.
Yeah. For example, we're currently making like a Mickey Mouse cartoon, but really it's about the existential crisis of turning 30 and like kids being a potential on the horizon.
Right. Sorry, keep going though.
So don't stop when the camera stops?
Yeah.
Right on, I love it.
Raunchy as fuck. Yeah, I mean, when I look at all this stuff, I mean, it's like one of the key things I think why you guys were successful is that you followed, your passion, which was you had these love for these characters that are in the mainstream, and I doubt there was much questioning of your motives, in the process of it, questioning like the existential worth of making a racist Mario cartoon,
Certainly not at that time.
Well, but again, it's like I see so many people who like I feel like genuine creativity and good ideas are actually really, really common. And a lot of people have really good ideas, but I think the thing that stops most people from actually diving into them is like a lack of belief in what they actually like or something. It's like they won't even give themselves permission to start doing something. I guess that's it. I mean,
I think a certain level of blind ignorance to maybe the flaws in your own ideas is probably a healthy thing,
Yeah.
I think, I guess I'd say, at least for me, that's something I've always believed is like, I have good ideas and they would make for funny cartoons and do well and stuff. So I think you're right, like, if there's a huge level of doubt involved, then maybe start watering down what makes the thing kind of unique to you. Or you just never launch anything because you're so like scared of it being shit or wrong or whatever. So I get that. I think that's true. I do think you have to be like smart with it too, though, because you can't expect to make like the most crazy thing to the point where it's now like not accessible to anyone. Unless that's just for you, that's cool. But if you're trying to like build a career off of it, you want to like do art for a living, I think there is like a certain amount of thinking that has to go into making it like appealing. But I think as a human, you yourself probably aren't only into stuff that's like only appealing to you, so it probably just happens naturally anyway.
Yeah, well, and I think there's a mix between being super naive about your own ideas and also like follow through. That does take quite a bit of discipline and just like pure work, like I'd imagine doing your cartoons, it takes an enormous amount of work that and resources that people just wouldn't expect.
I'm fairly cynical about this as well. I think like I don't actually think it's a good strategy to just blindly pursue what you think is cool all the time. There's definitely like a delta between what you think is cool and what people will accept, obviously, and I don't think it's a given that what you think is cool will be accepted to a degree that it will be successful. So and some people I do think that there's the people that kind of like do just to say like fuck you, I'm just going to do what I want, and then it works, like it makes it. There probably is a degree of literally coincidence of them being aligned with what people are going to receive well, you know what I mean? And there's for every person like that, there's a million people that have like an idea they think is cool that no one else will, and that's just kind of like a harsh, cynical reality, I think. But it can be counteracted. Like a big thing with us in this partnership has always been having someone else to kind of second guess, to be there to say no, that's a dumb idea, and that's been stymieing, certainly, also in some ways, I think.
How dare you?
I think the double-edged sword of that is dealing with two people, and then every decision now has to be like drilled into, and really carefully assessed. Like, it's certainly better to be someone.
We'll be fine. Just keep talking.
It's certainly better to be someone, obviously, that just has an intuition that's in line with what people want to see. But it's not guaranteed. I don't think it's guaranteed. I think it's kind of naive advice to just say like, do what you love, and then the rest will follow. Like there is kind of a darker layer to that. You know?
I think there's a lot of survivorship bias too to that. You know, the people who survive and say like, I just fucking did what I loved and it worked out and that was sick. Like. You, like Don's saying, you're not hearing from all the people who did the same thing that didn't work out.
Yeah, and well, I remember seeing Bo Burnham on Conan or something, and Conan was like, "Oh, so any advice for young musicians?" And Bo Burnham was like, "Don't fucking listen to us. You know, we're like the one in a million that won the lottery. You know." And it's, but I guess from another perspective, it's like every like successful person I've met, that there's also a reality that like. Doing things when you're successful and doing things when you're not successful feels the same, you know. It's like you're in your room no matter what, just grinding, making these cartoons or pictures or whatever, you know. And I think there's a reality that like that pursuit of just pure success is actually like from a fulfillment perspective it's not going to be the thing that is going to make you completely like complete you know.
For sure, like I think there's a degree of, like Don was saying, trying to mix the two. So like you know that a Sonic cartoon, for example, is gonna be more accessible to people or appealing to people just because they know the character or whatever. But if you overlay stuff that you really enjoy or care about into that, then you can kind of have it both ways a little bit. Yeah. And then I think you're never going to be able to just off the bat do your passion projects and get ultimate fulfillment. So for us, part of why we do like these parody cartoons a lot is to build to something greater, something where we can have like true fulfillment from that project, if that's even possible, but at least more fulfillment from that project. And I think that's the only way to do it, unless you have significant backing or funding from somewhere. You're gonna get copyright struck, bro. This fat beat. That guy was straight balling. I hope I'm like that when I'm like 70 or whatever. Just a silver fox, jowls wobbling to the beat of the of the fucking song.
What a cool peak.
He was actually 19 years old.
A cool peak for a man. Balboa Park in a Mustang convertible.
Yeah, in San Diego.
Just fucking
at
just living
65.
it. Just prowling for pussy, no doubt. Hungry, on the hunt.
Yeah, all this stuff is so strange. I think when it comes to art creation in general and just making things, it's like a again, it is that pursuit of the thing that you find genuinely interesting. And I was talking to Katie, the Castlevania character lead, and we're talking about how she just drew cute anime boys. For
as you do,
and she was able to make a career out of drawing cute anime boys, And it's like the fact that you can like not listen to people's advice and like not go to college or become animators or like not be a lawyer, right? Not be a banker or something and still find success. I think it's like, I guess it's like trying to identify what exactly is that path,
I mean, like, it depends how you're asking, but I could tell you the pure, like, game theory path that I think it is, or if you mean, like, being inspired enough to pursue, like, which part of it do you mean?
I don't know, I guess it's more of the inspired point of view. It's like a...
Right, not cynical point of view, okay.
It's like, I don't know, it's like, why do some people make it and why do some don't? It's like...
Such a, like, multifaceted...
But it's not just the skill, right? It's not just the quality of the work, it's something else, it's something deeper than that, And sometimes I meet people who are like, you're a really good artist, but then there's something about you that's like not fully committed or something, or that's not like fully bought into the idea of this lifestyle.
I feel like there's so many variables that it's just almost impossible to truly like quantify why and how. There's definitely probably like patterns that a lot of people share, like successful people for sure, but
hard work, obviously.
Yeah,
I think the very successful people creatively with art tend to be creative, and
damn dude.
Well, I should have used two words instead of one. The point I'm making is I think unless you get really lucky, like if you literally fall on your face into it, the only way to be creative in art in a way that is powerful enough to actually propel you to success is to start by just getting really fucking good at what you do, like mastering that medium and that entire space, and then only then really can you kind of iterate on it in a way that's interesting enough that will propel you above everyone else. Yeah. And the thing with artists is like, well, for starters, the vast majority of people that go out for art, that go to an art school, they show up and they expect to download the skill from the teacher. Yeah. Whereas it just doesn't work that way. I don't think it works that way for anything with art. It's all about your own ability to go force the knowledge into your own brain and your own hands, right. You know, like after class. Yeah. So that's like the first hurdle. That the vast, like I remember going to college, and I was a film student. I wasn't even an animation student, but I knew the animation majors, and they just like by graduating senior year with a BFA in animation, they had no like hireable skills at all. Right. And yeah, I think for a lot of people that isn't even a given, you know, like they think you go to college and you take the classes and you get good grades and you do all the assignments and now you're set up, you know, whereas there's like so much more necessitated.
I'll tell you what I think it is. I mean, the question that I ask everybody is, would you be doing exactly the same thing you're doing right now if you had $1 billion, you know?
Yeah.
And when I look at you guys, I would suspect that you would probably be doing like ridiculous cartoons if you had $1 billion, just at a larger scale. You know?
Sure, yeah. 100%.
And it's like, I think those, like even the students that get really, really good technically, like they defeat the first hurdle but then don't move on beyond that. Or even the students that don't, like, it's like the art is a means to end, to earn the money to do the things they actually want to do. Mm-hmm. Or to get the validation that they think that they want or something, you know. Right. But I think like what a truly successful person does, or somebody that's way more likely to be successful, is like instead of choosing to go skydiving or jet skiing or like going to a strip club or any of this stuff, you know, they would choose to do art instead, you know. Mm-hmm. Like not all the time, but like most of their time is spent, like they would rather be creating than doing anything else in the world, you know.
That's a huge part of it for sure, I think. Like we definitely misspent or spent well, depending on your point of view, are like teenage years and like young adulthood. Yeah. Not doing like a bunch of fun stuff and cool shit in terms of like going out and having fun and stuff, and really just trying to like grind out cartoons and stuff for YouTube or Newgrounds when we were really young. Yeah. But yeah, you're totally right. Like that's just what we wanted to fucking do because we loved it. I think art is such an unlikely career to succeed at in the first place that like you have to love it to do it, because the chances of succeeding with it is pretty fucking decimally small.
Well, and I think it's like I think that just doing it has to be the reward in itself. Mm-hmm. You know? And it's ironic. I think that not chasing the rewards is how you get the rewards. You know, it's like even if you didn't get all the attention from all these cartoons you guys have made, it still probably would have been worth your time to a degree, obviously. Mm-hmm. To like put in the effort and at least try, you know, and tell the jokes and do it, you know. I
think a healthy dose of chasing success probably helps too, you know, because you can spend a lot of time like being an artist and a perfectionist and like trying to make everything very perfect or whatever, and spend too long like trying to get a product out. Yeah. Because like to survive doing what you're doing, you're still like operating within a kind of like capitalist framework, right? So you need to release a product.
Well, I guess part of my argument for all this stuff is that I don't think that's actually corrupting. I don't think it corrupts the process, you know.
No, not at all. I think the reason that we can even exist to make so much art as like a society is due to like an excess of wealth that's generated from however we, you know, have managed our financial systems and stuff.
Right. Like somebody had to figure out highways and clean water before Flashgitz.
Yeah, it's like a that's the progression. Highways, and now we figured that out. Flashgitz next thing on the pyramid.
Not fiber optic cables.
Yeah, fuck all that shit. We need cartoons about.
Dude, it's fucking. I was thinking about it's like how crazy is it that we can sit in a park in San Diego and just like talk, and we don't have to worry about being invaded by.
Just drawing on like a magic device.
Yeah, right?
It's fucking wild.
And it's like, I could not fucking begin to imagine how this van was created, you know, in terms of like, just seeing complexity to like make the shapes, like shape the metal, create the engine, all that stuff, you know?
It's rad, dude.
It's because of men. Because of men. Doing all the dangerous jobs.
The bricklayers.
The bricklayers. The backs we stand upon.
The sewer plumbers.
The sewer plumbers.
Billions of people.
That's Mario. That's Mario and Luigi.
Mario, yeah. They're archetypes.
That's right.
And it's non-arbitrary.
And the plumbers.
Did I mention the plumbers?
They're a difficult job.
That fucking crazy son of a bitch.
Man, his Instagram's awesome.
GP?
It's awesome.
What's
very
on
well
it?
done. He'll do like a spiel like that, like so many liberals. Oh yeah, we're gonna want to catch this. Make sure
all right, let me get out of the way. Take it away, Don.
Okay, go.
So many liberals, they complain about the patriarchy. And how if we all just get men and terrible men failing to realize the streets they're driving on and the power that makes their iPads run was built by men on cable wires falling off, and basically it ends with in so many words. I think he used several of these words. I think some goddamn appreciation's in order.
Yeah, that's us. We did that stuff.
That was us.
That was us. That was men. As a collective, us included.
Our race, our gender.
Our race. The race of men.
Yeah, the race
as
of
opposed
men.
to the race of women.
The whole point of all this stuff is to identify the purpose of doing art in the first place. Because I think that you guys plan on doing this for the rest of your lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
Another 10 years or so.
10, 15. As long as the candle burns.
Yeah. But it's what makes it actually worth it to you to be excited about making cartoons in the future?
Fuck, man. I think it's as cliche as it sounds, it's about telling the stories that I want to tell. Yeah. At least for me, I feel like there's a dearth of stories about some of the values that are important to me, and I'd like to get that. But also, that's kind of underneath. I also just like telling funny jokes, writing funny jokes. It's fun, you get to be a bit of a kid, a bit naughty, oh, I can't say that, hee hee hee. Right. I love that. So, yeah, I think that more or less sums it up, really. And fuck, what else am I going to do? I have zero other marketable skills. What about you?
Yeah, I think that's
more or less the same.
Yeah, there's just huge satisfaction in making something so many people
creation.
laugh at.
Well,
and they also that it is kind of a feedback thing, but knowing if you're making a comedy cartoon that 2 million people are going to laugh at it, that's cool.
That's pretty fucking sweet.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's surreal at certain points, right?
We just got recognized at the fucking museum. I don't.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, it was crazy. I was
That's
drawing
insane.
on my iPad and some dudes came up and were like, "Wait, what the fuck? Flashgitz?"
Yeah.
That's only the second time that's happened in 3 years or so. So that was sweet.
You mean this week?
This week, just three or 4 times this week.
No, we need to get our faces out there. Nobody knows who we are.
But
I think
everyone sees your cartoons.
They don't fillet us enough. So we gotta.
Do you want to be recognized?
Kind of.
Yeah, kind of. I want a little bit of fucking, just a bit, but it can be a bit awkward.
I think that's. Are we still going?
Yeah. Sorry.
I just let's breeze through.
I'm just gonna. Okay. I think that's something that's interesting about all this. It kind of orbits the whole thing. Is there definitely is this feedback-based drive. Even though I want to tell jokes that lots of people laugh at, and if nobody laughed at them, then I feel bad. I need to try again.
Right.
But it's there is a drive. I want to be recognized by everybody when I go in public. Actually,
You want to be the fucking man.
I want to be a fucking
why
rock
not?
star.
Yeah.
But I also think that while you want that, it probably isn't the be all and end all of actual happiness. So it's weird. It's like that monkey thing, I don't think there's ever actually a top of the mountain that's satisfactory.
Yeah.
But that's what we're striving for. But at the same time, happiness seems to come from a separate well. You know what I mean? And so it's like this weird thing that it seems really gay to condemn. But it's not about that, dude. It's not about being recognized in public. That's to say I want to be recognized in public just seems kind of
it's stupid, right?
Yeah, but I also I don't think it is. But at the same time, it's not I don't think it's like actually a true source of happiness.
Yeah.
It's like it's inherent to human nature.
Yeah.
So I refuse to condemn it, but at the same time, it
You
probably
could condemn things inherent to human nature,
But I mean,
couldn't you?
yeah, but it's like, so what am I going to do? Like, stop trying to be as successful as possible?
I don't know.
Like, maximally successful?
I don't think it's a problem to want to be recognized in public and stuff, for sure.
It's
Oh,
like,
I think it's a problem to get all of your validation from that.
For sure, yeah.
Like 100% of who you are. It's like if you're not recognized in public, then you feel depressed. And
I also, the dark side of being recognized in public is that I do imagine there are probably a few people who would club me over the back of the head with a pipe.
Oh, for sure.
So I'm alright, well, you didn't need to agree so readily and quickly with that statement. But yeah, I don't know, that shit freaks me out.
I guess I've been thinking about, like we were talking about this the other day, is ego a valid motivator to be successful? And I think the more I think about it, the answer is like, I think so, actually.
well,
Like,
what does valid mean?
like, I don't know, like you said, like people say like, you know, oh, you do this because you love it, you do it because it's your favorite thing.
Like that's the noble pursuit versus wanting to be recognized.
But the real answer, the actual honest answer is like, it feels good to be recognized for
I
what
think
you
it's
do,
both, you know?
Yeah. Well, and I don't know, from a Christian perspective, I think it's like the idea of original sin, that like you're not perfect, right? You're not, you know, well, we're not perfect,
Right?
You know.
So how do you mean?
Like
to do with the ego thing? How
like
would
you know, you are a human being. It's like you're not perfect. Like you do want things that are evil, right? And I think, like you're not the ideal, right? You're not the Buddha or Muhammad or Jesus. Or
but would the
whatever.
Christian perspective be to go on to say that that's okay?
Well, I
because
think,
if we're defining the ego thing as evil and not good, but it's just who we are, does that make it okay to?
I think it's wrong to condemn it completely, you know, because it's part of who you are. You know? It's like you can't escape that. Like I've been recognized a couple times at the Watts Atelier by people that I'd never met before that had seen my podcast. And
That's
I was
cool,
like,
man.
This is fucking weird. You know, it's people like, you know, and it's like, and some stuff through Proco as well. And I could totally see that becoming just a thing I'd chase, you know. But I also think it's like a motivator. It's like, oh shit, I'm doing something that people watch. I'm doing something that people.
It absolutely is.
You know.
Yeah, it kind of I mean, it begins to validate that you're getting somewhere. You know?
Yeah. Well, and I think that a big part of being successful and whatever that means is like everyone has good ideas, but it's like just dependent on the amount of validation that they get. You know.
I don't know if everyone has good ideas.
I think everyone has like good enough ideas.
I don't know. That's
okay. Well, I don't know.
You can just disagree.
I might be too optimistic, but I don't know. I maybe not that, but maybe everyone has some inherent value. You know,
right? Okay.
There's something to offer to someone else that's lost for whatever reason. You know,
sure.
And I don't know what that reason is, but it's lost a lot of the time. You know? And I don't know. Like when I was in art school, or when I do talk to people, it's like they're always pursuing the monkish, like just internal motivation path, you know.
Yeah.
It's like I'm gonna wake up and be the broccoli knight, you know, wake up at 6 a.m., run 10 miles.
Eat broccoli.
Yeah, chicken, broccoli, rice. That's all you eat, you know.
I think that's good to aspire to.
Yeah.
I don't think that has to be a problem, you know. I think as far as ego goes, like as long as it's not making you, you know, do crazy shit that's fucking a bunch of people over or fucking yourself over, it's plenty fine and healthy to have an ego to help propel you. I mean, fuck, dude. Sometimes it's like anything you can get to help keep you doing this shit, you know? Just try and utilize every tool available to you, and if ego is part of that, then it doesn't necessarily have to be a problem to use it as motivation.
Yeah. I think so too.
What is your take on like how healthy it is? Because you say it's like it's not all bad, but like I think certainly it is like a kind of a self-damning pursuit. Like it can't be everything, you know, because you're never going to find the top of the mountain, so you'll never be satisfied if you can't derive happiness from anything else, you know.
I mean, I don't know if you guys would recommend being animators, you know. Like if a kid came up to you and was like, I want to be an animator, what do you recommend I do this? You guys might say no.
It depends from like what perspective they're asking though, like or why we would reject that as like something you should pursue.
But the answer is not always yes, right?
Sure.
And
depending on the variables, sure.
Well, and I guess what I'm saying is like I meet artists who say they wouldn't recommend being an artist because it is, like you said, a damning pursuit. Like, you know, you will never be happy with your own work. you know. You'll never be happy with the amount of followers you have. You'll never be happy with the amount of money you have, you know. And as a result, you're pursuing this thing that is inherently like, you know, the peaks get further and further away, you know, and you need more and more to scratch that itch, you know.
Yeah.
And maybe it is better, like, to just be somebody living in the woods, living a very simple life, you know.
I think that all the time.
Tending your crops.
I think there's much kind of like I imagine if I had not gone out for animation, or even if I did, but like not as like an entrepreneurial thing, more just like a animating in a studio sort of thing, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, it had set hours, although God knows that's hard to find as an animator.
Yeah.
But basically just doing like I'm employed as an artist versus self-employed thing, you know, where I have hours and it isn't my company and it's a stable job, and you know, I can get married and have kids and not expect to be fired anytime soon. Like, would I be literally much happier than I am now? And I don't think the answer is necessarily no. And that's weird, you know.
Well, and knowing that or at least suspecting that, and then still choosing the path that you're on is like I was curious about that. Like, you read about Elon Musk, right? And Elon Musk is like, I fucking hate my life. You know, 5 ex-wives, super stressed out all the time, working all the time.
What a loser, dude.
Dude, I think it's. I think it is. It's what I was getting at. It's this weird monkey thing, which actually, I think, partially accounts for feeling fulfilled in your life. It's this monkey thing where, I mean, it's what, you know, as cliche as it is, it's like why we're on the moon. It's like this. It's this ambition energy. So like, even though it's kind of a miserable pursuit, it's like I feel like I have been so incredibly lucky to be given the conditions to pursue this thing, and I'll have always felt like I wasted my life if I didn't pursue them. Even though at the same time I can think like, well, if I wasn't pursuing this and I just had a normal life, I would probably literally be a lot happier right now, and I might even be happier when I retire. You know, so it's like those things are kind of like at war with each other, you know. But you can't, like, especially to be in the position we're in now with like a real YouTube channel that gets lots of people to watch stuff, like to just give that up, you'll always wonder like, well, where could I have taken that? Even though it doesn't matter where I take it, because it'll probably never be like actually the source of my happiness in the long run.
I think master of your own destiny is always preferable to working for someone else. Like, I don't necessarily agree that I would be happier doing like a salaried job. I get the appeal, like, I don't have to think about telling people what to do and how to do it, and have more stability and all that shit, but I think like having something that you created and it's yours and you get to direct it is ultimately always going to bring more fulfillment for me anyway.
Fulfillment with creating art, but you're not the master of your own destiny as a self-employed person. You're still beholden to so many factors and so many ways you wipe out.
But like, if we take out the obvious caveats that like no one's truly a master of anything, because you still got to make certain cartoons to get a certain audience and blah blah blah, like, you still effectively have more control.
Okay, but what I'm talking about right now is, and the other thing is, there's a difference between me and Tom. Like, I've had like depression stuff like that, whereas Tom probably has but doesn't admit it and doesn't get diagnosed, so he you know, it doesn't count. But it's like, man, I got lost. I lost my train of thought. Give me a second. I got lost because I was trying to dunk on you.
I didn't even need to defend.
No.
You just hit your head on the rim.
Oh, God. Hold on a second.
Bouncing your ball.
Hold on a second. Okay. The literal end goal I'm talking about is literal happiness achieved by the end of life, you know? Like, which path will net you the most literal happiness? And I don't think it's obvious that is being as monetarily and like fame wise successful as possible.
I'm not talking about that though.
Well, that's what I am talking about.
I'm talking about
like, I could
master of your destiny.
Okay.
Like your own boss.
Okay. Well, I could be my own boss at a much easier job that's much more stable.
Well, yeah,
and not make as much money, not nearly as much money.
Right, but we're talking within the realm of art.
Okay. Well, I mean, I guess that's kind of the question. Even within the realm of art, there's probably like safer pursuits you could do.
Yeah, but safety's fucking overrated.
I don't think safety actually exists, you know?
I think salary job has got, you know, a ton of pitfalls. Maybe not as much as self-employed though. I don't know if I agree that it's as unstable as that.
Well, yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff that you leave up to other people, you know? It's like you're almost like intentionally blinding yourself to, like, I don't know, everything else that goes on at the company. It's like, when you start a company, or at least you're working for a big company, you're having somebody else handle payroll, somebody else handle background, somebody else handle HR, taxes, all that stuff, you know? And when somebody else is doing it, maybe that eventually gets to somebody who's just completely incompetent, who just doesn't do the work, you know? And, you know, I would say eventually that kind of happens at a lot of companies, you know? Like Blizzard, using Blizzard as an example, it's like, back in the day, it was a little bit, like, it was a lot more of like a creative place where they're making really cool stuff.
Right.
And now it's something that's like really kind of fucking lame. You know? It's like, well, it's not what it used to be, you know?
Yeah.
Get controlled by, you know, essentially people trying to maximize the Hearthstone pack sales, you know, instead of trying to just make it a fun game, you know. And I don't know, I spent like 5 or 6 months last year trying to talk to as many people as possible, just driving to, you know, drove to New York and back.
Why do we have to come to you?
I'll go to fucking Austin. I didn't know you then, so
I'm just fucking around. I'm just kidding.
I'll go to Austin.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. But it's like I spent a long time just trying to like find people who I think were like on the path to fulfillment, on the path to meaning, you know. And I found people that were closer and further away than whatever. I didn't even realize I had this, but I had an ideal. I had like, you know, I would base people off this ideal, and some people would be further and closer. You know? And I guess it's like, again, the people that I know that are closer are actually generally the people that like are their own bosses, but they're not necessarily pursuing grand ambition, you know. They're not like, I'm going to be the best painter, or I'm not going to be the best. Fuck,
it's such a cool ambition though.
It is, it's the best.
Fucking best.
Yeah, right?
Almost impossible, but what a fucking ideal to pursue.
Yeah. And it's like, it's fucking sick to pursue being the best.
Hell yeah, dude.
But the price to that is crazy, you know?
And it's, you know, it's also like, what do you do once you get there? How much fulfillment are you actually getting out of that, you know?
Maybe all of it, dude.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'll tell you when I get there.
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, like looking at Elon, or like any great person in society, it's like, I always think about the from Gladiator, you know, the very beginning of the movie when Marcus Aurelius and Maximus are in the tent together, and Maximus is telling Marcus Aurelius about his family. Well, Maxis Aurelius is surrounded in this beautiful tent with all this beautiful art, billions of dollars in value, and Maximus Aurelius is like, oh, I'm so envious of your farm, your humble farm where you get to spend time with your kids.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So Gladiator's got my back.
Yeah, well, what we do in life will echo in eternity.
Yeah.
Another good Gladiator quote.
I forgot that one. I'm not a good.
I think honestly, like, this is my autistic view of fulfillment and happiness is the further we've gotten away from like our evolved environment, the more neurotic and shit we get. So like, I think probably true fulfillment and happiness would come from being in some little tribe, hunting food and shit, and raising kids and stuff.
Well, I would surely then, like, you know, farming and having a kid or something would be a closer approximation than endlessly trying to be as famous and
100%, dude. But
possible.
Second best, being being awesome.
but I think it's like there's that Nietzsche quote. Jordan Peterson was talking about it, where it's like if humans had all humans had to do was busy themselves with the continuation of the species and eat nothing but cakes, we would destroy it in like 5 seconds. You know. I'd get bored. Like, I've had moments in my life when I've been physically comfortable where I'm like, this is a nice job, nice, you know, nice life, you know, and I'm like, just destroy it, you know. It's like I live in this like 100 square foot space, and I can like choose to be living in a more like a physically comfortable place, and instead I'm doing this, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's like,
I don't know if we can unpack your neuroticism on this podcast, dude.
I mean, I think you're right. Like, maybe that's part of the darkness of ambition. Is even if it isn't like as good for you, maybe there's no. I mean, there isn't any accepting the life where the ambition wasn't pursued. You know, like that's the fear. It's like, well, if I don't do this,
am I going to regret it?
Yeah. Even if like I may have a net happier life doing something else, I'll always regret not trying as hard as I can at this and sacrificing so much to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And also maybe like life isn't about maximum happiness.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't think it is. I think it's about meaning. You know.
Yeah.
It's part of the reason why I say I believe in God. Is that.
But wouldn't you say meaning creates happiness, right? If you feel meaning, you're happy. Versus like if someone lives to be, you know, the ripe old age of like 88 and spends like twice as many minutes happy than me.
Yeah.
You know, like that's literal happiness. Like so they're not being depressed by a lack of meaning.
Yeah.
Because in that equation, meaning or not, they've been happier, right? Like you want meaning to be happy. So if there's another life where you can be happier, then you know it's weird.
I think it's. I mean, like I heard Sam Harris talking about the two peaks. You know, it's like the distant peak and the local peak. And the local peak is like you sitting on your couch drinking Mountain Dew and playing Fortnite. You know. And the distant peak is like you creating a really successful business and having a partner and family and kids and doing work that's really meaningful, you know.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot of battling to get to the distant peak, and you actually might not get there, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the constant battle was like being okay with the local peak, and because part of the danger of thinking that way, it's like, what am I going to be thinking about on my deathbed, is that you will lose time and potentially corrupt your old time because you're looking at it as a waste from before, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like I don't know. I think the pursuit of meaning it's important, and I think everyone should do it, but I don't know.
I guess that's I misspoke in that way too. I think the way we've been talking about meaning is like wrapped up in ambition and achieving something huge and crazy, you know.
Yeah.
But the counterexample I focus on is how like, and you know, maybe it's kind of like a mythical, not real thing. But you think of like somebody in the 20s, like a family man, you know, that just does the basic life. Go to high school, graduate, get married, have a job, work that job the rest of your life, have kids, have a house, die. There's no way they all hated everything, you know? Like, and part of that was probably deriving meaning, a lot of meaning out of that life, you know? And it's, it's just a question of like is the endless pursuit for fame and recognition the way to get maximum meaning? Why don't we focus on...
clearly not.
Yeah.
It's just like such a simple answer.
Okay, but if the goal should be maximum meaning, and that's if you take that having a life that has maximum meaning is the best possible way you could have lived your life, then why are we doing this instead of trying to find a more meaningful life?
I mean, I think you find like you find meaning in all the different facets of your existence, right? One could be career, like this. Mm-hmm. One can be, you know, family and all the rest of it. Like, you find meaning in all sorts of places.
Well, and I guess that's the idea of original sin to me, is that you're not perfect, right? Like, you actually, because you're pursuing career, you can't pursue family. Because you're pursuing family, you can't pursue career. And it's like, no matter what you're sacrificing, you can't be a complete person, you know? Mm-hmm. And another part of this stuff is you're different people at different times. Like, some days you really want the family stuff, and some days you really want the career stuff. And inevitably you're going to be in a position where you're going to be wishing you did something else than what you spent your life doing, you know?
It's inevitable, I think. Yeah. And I think the only answer is to, you know, try and maximize meaning in every facet you can, and you're not going to get it 100% right because it's impossible to. And that's just, you know, accept that's life.
But do you think that right now is maximizing meaning?
I think right now is trying to maximize meaning. I think that's more or less all you can do, right?
Well, and I guess a big part of all this, like, maximizing meaning, whatever that means, is not thinking about it, you know? It's like just fucking doing it and just being, like, I feel like I've been thinking about the idea of fulfillment wrong my entire life until like 2 years ago, where for a long time I was like, you have to plan everything. You have to follow the path that's set out for you. You have to get a lot of money and, you know, all that stuff. And then at a certain point, I was like, like, life is so unpredictable that you actually can't predict anything, actually, you know? And I think as a result, like, to try and plan everything out is actually going to end up backfiring at some point because you don't have perfect information, you know? So the answer is just do what's set out in front of you and don't even think about what other path you could have gone down, you know?
I think there's a happy in between. I think a certain amount of planning is probably a good idea.
Yeah.
But like you say, you don't have perfect information, so you can't make a perfect plan, but that just means you make lots of micro adjustments or macro adjustments along the way, you know?
Yeah. Well, and I think it's a lot better to have a bad plan than no plan, you know? And I think part of the first step of, like, again being successful in whatever the way that means is, like, not beating yourself up over having a bad plan, because, like, for sure we're doing something right now that we're going to regret in 10 years, you know? Like whatever it is.
This?
Yeah.
Am I going to regret this in 10 years?
Absolutely. Yeah. When you
I knew I shouldn't have screamed the N-word. Can you cut that?
No.
Oh, fuck.
Well, when you're running for office and you know.
Fuck.
But,
just when your camera here.
No, it's good. But yeah, I don't know. It's like like in the same way, like a dog like goes and picks up a stick that you throw, or a dolphin just goes and eats fish, or a bee goes and pollinates a flower. I think it's like a human. It has like a certain thing that's put in front of them, and they go and have it. They like have to fucking do it, you know?
Yeah.
And like again, I when I look at you guys, I really think you guys would still be animating if you had $1 billion, you know? Probably, right?
Give me $1 billion and we'd be making original series.
Yeah. We would still be, yeah.
We wouldn't be doing parodies.
We would still be making cartoons. I don't think I'd be animating.
Yeah. Right.
They could pay someone else to do that.
Well, yeah, it's
yeah. Cool. Well, I mean, but that's just getting at what the real
you want to make
inspiration. Yeah, I just want to create stuff. But I don't necessarily
want to do the, like, you know, nuts and bolts work.
Yeah.
You want to kind of do the story stuff,
right?
You know?
Yeah.
Well, and again, I think money is like the crux of a lot of people's lives, where they think, like, once I have the money, then I can start doing the thing I would be doing if I had $1 billion, you know?
I get you.
And I think for a lot of people, it's like almost like an excuse not to do it, because they're like, oh, I don't have the money, I don't have the resources, or...
You kind of, like, well, yeah, it's... You can always do something that's close to what you want to do, to an extent, right? But definitely the money, like, enables you to do the real, true, like, purest expression of that thing. So again, for us, we want to make cartoons. We've always loved making cartoons. When we were teenagers, making parody cartoons was enough. Now we want to make, like, original cartoons, our own shit. And for that, you need, like, a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's really hard to secure funding for. But to your point, we would still have been making those parody cartoons. And if we had $1 billion, we'd still be making cartoons in general. One is just a more pure expression of what we really want to do.
Right.
The other is the acceptable, help me out here, acceptable compromise between what you want and what you can achieve at that time.
Well, and sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that's actually pertinent to what we have going on right now, because we are going to start making original stuff, and the underlying meaning of that series that we're going to produce is about this idea of not, like, having the resources or feeling like you have the resources to do it, how you should just do it, you know? Like, there isn't going to be a perfect time to do the thing you want to do. You know? That'll be, it was the show we came up with on ShowQuest years ago, the whole comic book.
It's like a little vlog series we did where we kind of brainstormed a show idea.
So yeah, that's
changed some since then, but
that'll be the commanding, like, moral of the story, you know, which is, like, very pertinent to where we're at now, because it's taken us years to take the plunge to do something creative, because we didn't feel like we have enough money, time, fans, you know, if they're going to care about something like that. But at this point, fucking 29, almost 30.
Fuck yeah. Time to go, dude.
Yeah, have to just make something, like...
And the clock is ticking.
You know?
Yeah. Well, and again, I think it's like that. I think part of the reason we're obsessed with the, like, anti-hero or the, like, just hero stories in general, of, like, the person that was like an orphan that became a superhero or something, or you know, rose from the muck or something. It's because like I think that's the only way to do it. You know, it's like that's the only way to make something great. And that's the only way to make anything at all. You know, is to do it against the odds. You know? It's like you meet people who like you see shows or movies that are funded for $100 million or $200 million or something that fail, right?
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, how does that fucking happen? You know, they have all the resources in the world, all the talent, all the, you know.
I've thought about that a lot, and I think it's if you actually wanted like a perspective on that, from
absolutely.
us, it's like, for me anyway, because they're not necessarily trying to make the best product. There's so many variables of what people actually want from that show, and it's not always to make the best show.
Yeah.
It might be to sell a bunch of toys.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
we were talking to a friend about the same thing on a podcast, I think, but like, you know, you need to sell a bunch of fucking Yoda action figures, so now Yoda has to appear in this film when maybe he doesn't necessarily belong and doesn't help the story, right? And now the motivation isn't to make the best thing, it's to make something that facilitates something else. And then the other part is like, the bigger a project is, the more complicated it is, the more points of failure there are. You know, it's like anything. The more complicated it is, the more likely it is to break.
More cooks in the kitchen.
There's also more cooks in the kitchen. Like, you're now not relying on one or two people's like creative vision. You've now got a bunch of people who are funding the thing who also have a vision, and it might not align properly. So it's if anything, the more money and shit you have sometimes, and the more people, the easier it is to fuck something up.
Oh, for sure.
And then the other thing is, like, there's the immediate instinct of, like, how does that happen? Because when they get the best possible people, they're spending that kind of money. But like, even if you had it so that there aren't too many cooks in the kitchen, and you're putting your faith in someone that, like, kills it, you know, I don't think anybody's infallible either. Like, no one never fails, like, at any art thing, you know, and it can be a $200 million movie that you fail at, you know.
It's also not a pure meritocracy either. You're not necessarily just getting the best people. There's lots of considerations. There's like nepotism, you know. You're not always just like going for the right thing, or maybe you've got like a quota, like this needs to have a certain amount of women to do it, and it's like, if you're basing that on like gender, for example, and not just like who's best for the job, whether that's those women or not, it's like, again, you're not aiming for just like merit, and you know, that's bound to hurt something.
Well, and I think it's and I'm really into the story of like the Hobbit and Lord of the Rings for this exact reason, where it's like, even if it's likely to fail and you might not succeed, it's still worth pursuing, you know.
100%, man.
Like, I look at movies like
I thought we were talking about the movie, not that you mean literally the...
Yeah, this is what I like about Lord of the Rings.
So,
There's like barely any chicks in that, dude. That was your angle. No female quota.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, no, I just meant the Hobbit trilogy. Obviously, is a
the
massive,
best
expensive
films ever made.
That had every reason to be successful, and they totally fucked it.
Well, I said that too. Well, the story of it plus the actual movies, it's like ironic.
Yeah, it's good example.
But Del Toro got fucking, he left or got ousted or something, and then Peter Jackson came in to try and pick it up.
Actually, wasn't it Pacific Rim that ruined everything? He got to go make Pacific Rim. And
I don't know what the fuck, but
I think it was
Peter Jackson, I believe, was left with like no time and a half-done project by a different director. It's like you're fucked. There's no.
Didn't fail.
And to that point, like, those Hobbit films still have some like truly incredible moments, like the riddles in the dark with Gollum and Bilbo. That shit's like as good as anything in the Lord of the Rings films.
The Dwarf Song.
The Dwarf Song's sweet as well. Gives my dick rock hard, dude.
I hated the dwarves.
In general,
why just give them all fucking
neat,
beards, you losers? You know, they're trying to make them all have like their own look.
Well, you kind of, that's fair enough.
But at the same,
you gotta separate them, right?
Well, no, you have to sell fucking toys, because at the end of the day, even in the book, it has never mattered. They are a collective. they don't have the only character dwarf that really matters is the king.
Yeah.
The rest of them, they don't need to be individual. Like we can lose track of them. It doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
So it's just about toys. I like Philly.
Yeah.
You reckon it's about toys?
I think it's
I think
it's
so.
about something like that. It's
it's toys, and it's also making characters that are relatable to the audience.
Yeah.
You know? So having like young dwarves,
Men like me who have big patches in
Yeah,
their
yeah.
beards.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, I like that dwarf.
Dude, how cool would
He's
it have
awesome.
been if
the
they were
incel
just
dwarf.
if they were just like
Nice bee.
just like a huddled crowd of dwarves that all kind of look the same and have different beards and they have different names. It doesn't fucking matter.
Well, did you guys see the new trailer for Lord of the Rings, the TV show, where the female dwarves don't have beards?
Yeah,
Sweet.
Yeah,
Love
pretty
it.
cool.
yeah. ruining everything.
They, I think they fired the Tolkien specialist.
The guy who was like,
Because
no,
it was
this
probably-
isn't right.
Actually, well, it's what you're paying me to do is to say this isn't right.
And they're like, stop saying that.
Yeah.
Be gone.
Yeah.
I said, well, that case in point, not necessarily trying to make the best product.
Well, but sometimes you get people do actually making the best product, and their thing still doesn't do. It still doesn't make the money.
Yeah, I mean,
well, I think The Northman is a good example of that. You know,
Mm.
it's like that's a movie that's done really well, really brilliant, but like great execution. I'm probably never going to watch it again
Oh, why not?
because it's stressful. It's super stressful.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it stressed me.
I was
out.
going to
Dude,
agree with you, but now I
I
don't.
felt the opposite of stress. I just had endorphins the whole time.
Just fucking-
I had endorphins
I
until
felt-
the male power fantasy ended. Every other scene.
Yeah.
When he's like, I don't know, talking to that chick about like love and stuff.
Yeah.
Count me out,
Yeah,
bro. Bring back
rubbing her hand.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
"Ugh." Bring back the oily muscle dudes.
Yeah, that was the
I
other
want to see
funny.
them frolic.
That was the other funny thing about the scene. It's like, who's missing? The dwarf and his hot girlfriend. Okay, where do they go?
Are you talking about Hobbit again?
No, not the dwarf. Sorry, the Viking and his hot girlfriend. Okay, where did they go? Maybe the romantic waterfall with the hot springs.
Yeah.
That's like 10 miles from here. That might be a
I
nice,
don't believe
nice
that
place
she
for.
could have dragged him there for shit.
Oh yeah.
Lies.
that's
Hollywood
right, too.
magic.
Yeah, it's fucking bullshit.
She's like fucking 90 pounds soaking
Yeah,
wet,
she is.
dude. She ain't dragging him. That's bullshit.
Yeah, dude.
Meanwhile, all this other crazy shit's going on.
Yeah, I forgot it. She got him on top of a horse.
Good for her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she couldn't have done that.
What a queen.
No, it's stupid.
Yeah,
Stupid.
I choose to view that film as like a retelling of a saga or a myth where she can lift a 200-pound man.
Yeah, we're not trying to talk anybody
She's
out
a
of
lady
watching
boy.
this movie. It's actually
It's really
very
brilliant.
good.
It's a good
You
movie.
should go watch
If you, it's not definitely not a perfect movie, but if you like yearning for naked dudes like hitting each other with axes, solid.
Fuck yeah.
Just dudes like dancing around campfires and yelling and screaming and shit. You're just like, yeah!
It's just- yeah.
Meanwhile, we're like clammy, pasty animators and shit, but
Yeah.
it's just,
Yeah,
it's a
right.
little, nice little...
I can't bench press my own weight. Like, you know.
Me either.
But you, as a man, you have the potential.
yeah,
The latent potential.
The latent potential, even if you're not using it, it's your
yeah.
It's there.
birthright.
Yeah, it's
your
there.
birthright.
yeah.
I like that. It's nice.
Yeah, that's the potential. Yeah. Well, but again, I guess going back to the project, like, it could still be really well made, but it could still not... I think they expected it not to make a lot of money, but it's still not the most popular thing on the planet, you know? And...
That's. I think they didn't market it well. I think that was the failure. Even I wasn't massively interested. I thought the trailer was kind of boring. It definitely didn't convey the winning points about it to me when I went and saw it. I didn't get any of that from.
I was literally more excited about the, like, angry media reviews.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck, this sounds cool now.
Yeah.
They were like, this film is like got
Toxic
toxic masculinity. I was like,
yeah.
oh, sick! I gotta go see that.
Yeah, sick, bro.
Fucking awesome, dude.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude.
Hell yeah, bro.
But yeah, I mean that was the craziest thing about it is it's like
Oh, shit. Do you want arm wrestle?
whoa.
Oh, that was sick.
Dude.
Hell yeah, man.
You never expected them anyway to make another thing like 300 today.
No, I didn't. Yeah.
And that's I mean it wasn't exactly that, but I think it's as close as
I will say 300 only had one scene where he was talking about his deep love for his wife.
He didn't talk about it either.
Oh, did he just look her in the eyes?
No, he doesn't even look at her. maybe he looks at her like for a second and walks away, and then you hear that other guy say, "Goodbye, my love." No words are spoken because there's no room for
He literally doesn't say a word.
He doesn't
to her.
say. Yeah, he just.
They have
fucks it.
sex, right?
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, dude.
He doesn't even look in the eyes.
He doesn't. Yeah, he's just like looking at the wall.
Yeah, there's just like Spartan chevrons on the bedpost or something like that. And just...
That's why the Northmen won't compare. It comes close, but yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah, that was a cool scene. It's like, goodbye, my love. No, you don't say love in Sparta though.
Was that like
it's a ladies stuff.
Was it VO?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. They got some dude with a sick voice to be like, love is gay.
that was the director's commentary.
Yeah. Fuck yeah, dude. I love it.
You ever see Black Mirror?
Yeah, I've seen a couple episodes.
Just episode 1, the Prime Minister fucking a pig.
Alright, let's not make this about
pretty cool.
my brave people.
Black Mirror stresses me out. I can't watch it.
I think so much of it is really stupid too, but that first episode is really well done. It's just like it's sort of the same philosophical question, like, would you fuck a pig to save like a life, like the princess's
Whose life?
It's like not the princess. Maybe it is. I can't remember. It might have been the princess, like the fictional royal family's daughter or something. I can't remember. Yeah. Or his daughter. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, I think there's a ton of stuff in our lives that we actually say no to. You know, it's like I think I was telling you this, but I was a vegetarian for about a year and a half or so, and I was like, okay, eating meat is bad. It's like objectively something that I don't agree with. Like factory farming is evil, right?
Right, sure.
But not so much to where I was willing to give up ice cream. You know, I was like, I like ice cream more than I like the suffering of an animal. You know.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's like it was almost like a worse distinction because I was like, I'm knowingly doing evil, but it's because I was knowingly doing evil versus doing it out of just complacency, you know. And like looking at the amount of suffering that went into just like our own lives and the things that we're standing on, like people building iPhones against their will in China or something, or the like lithium mined in Ethiopia to you know, like whatever. It's like what amount of that is justified? And the answer to us is like actually quite a bit, you know, as long as we get to live the life that we live, you know.
I think as long as you don't have to think about it. I think that's where people draw the line.
Yeah. Well, and I think it, like, is there a fair amount of it that we can fix? Like, I'm actually asking, like, what is the...
I think you're barking up the wrong tree, man.
Yeah.
We make dick joke cartoons for a living. We're not solving shit, dude.
Yeah.
I think you guys are contributing to...
Yeah, I just don't know how much we can help with the nitrate.
Yeah.
What was it?
Lithium?
Lithium-ion batteries from the mines in wherever the fuck that shit's taken from.
Yeah.
That's probably where a lot of the complacency comes from too. It's really easy to say, well, you know, that's like the government's problem or their government's problem, you know, and they're the evil ones that are doing that, you know. Yeah. And even if I refuse to buy an iPhone, like, what difference would it make?
Yeah.
You know.
Right. And I think the answer is a certain amount. You know, one person's amount.
Yeah, if you went like vegan or something, you would be reducing a considerable amount of suffering, probably. Right?
Yeah,
maybe not.
I think it's like
there's arguments for carbon footprints and, you know, climate change.
Well, I think
long term.
The only argument that doesn't apply is that, like, your little protest isn't going to make a huge dent.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, the cow factories are literally going to make this, like,
the same amount,
the same number of cows, even
for sure.
Like,
But if everyone did it, obviously, blah blah blah.
Yeah, but then it's like, by becoming vegan, are you, like, really? You kind of have to go whole hog, like.
That's a nice little pun.
So, well, yeah, because like the only change that's actually going to make a difference is like revolution, like massive change.
Okay, calm down, Don.
Well, ooh, a little crazy.
It's a little far from it. I don't know. I don't fucking care, honestly.
I don't mean.
I don't care.
I don't mean a government shake-up. Like, I just mean, you know, the legislative action. You know, like on that scale. Like, me not eating a burger isn't going to stop them from killing just as many cows.
You just kind of end up having to accept that, like you said, you like meat more than you don't like the suffering of animals, and it's like you either need to accept that or become a vegan.
Yeah. Well, no, I would say a couple things to what you guys just said. Like, I disagree that not eating meat does actually make a huge difference. And it's like, maybe in the moment to moment, not really, but in the, like, you know, if everyone else around you was vegetarian, there's a slightly larger chance for every person that's around you that's vegan or vegetarian, for you to become a vegetarian, you know?
Yeah, so when we're talking about scale,
yeah,
100%.
So it's like, it's like, sure, the moment to moment doesn't really matter,
Right.
but the example that you're leading does make a huge difference.
It's just the issue of if the scale ever takes off, you know, like, you know, and certainly the kind of person that's a vegan or vegetarian is not creating the conditions for the scale to take off. Like, the way they conduct themselves, the way they talk to other people isn't particularly persuasive.
You can say that, but the amount of veganism and vegetarianism that has happened in, you know, even the last 20 years is exponential, right?
The other thing is, I don't fucking know anything. I just like have hearsay, like the headlines floating in my head, but I believe there's some kind of climate impact that's kind of
from
humorous.
from cows.
No, well, cows obviously, but also vegans.
There's no fucking way though that like veganism even sort of compares to the amount of fucking carbon shit from like cows and stuff. There's no way.
Well, there's other impacts. Like there's you know,
Their farts.
There's never going to be an impactless
no.
production of food,
Yeah.
but it's about minimizing it as much as you can if you believe in that stuff.
but I mean, I think people contend that it's actually a pretty severe impact, and there's stuff like nutrients in soil.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And turnover with that, and like famine, and how like, you know, the places we grow corn aren't going to be able to grow corn anymore because of all the like crop turnover and stuff. But once again, no idea what I'm talking about. This is like fractured pieces of things I've read in the past.
Yeah.
So it's just the like fractured understanding that I walk around with, and that I'm arrogant about.
Your slight justification to keep doing what you're doing.
To keep eating delicious meat.
Keep doing something
Meat's tasty, man.
objectively.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, subjectively, I guess, pretty bad.
Yeah, and I think it's hard to, like, factory farming, I think, is something that's hard to look at, you know. Whether you want to say it's evil or, I mean, it's like, looking at it, it's like, you know, like, I've seen those documentaries, and it's like, what the fuck is going on?
Literally the only, like, as far as I'm concerned, the only position you can take is either you care less about their suffering than you do about the taste of the meat, which is basically where I stand, or you hunt your own meat.
Yeah.
Well, that's, you know, and that's
which is impossible to scale, but you know, it's not like everyone's going to try and do that anyway. You can still do it and change it, but again, I'm just too lazy.
Yeah. Well, and I think with all this stuff, there's always like there's like a million things like that in our lives that we don't consider, right? It's like there's the meat problem, and then there's the clothes that we wear on our backs problem, and then there's the gasoline problem, this stuff, you know, people being uprooted in the Middle East, and all these little things compound into being like, we're participating in a really fundamentally, like, I think the system we live in is correct in a lot of ways, but it's also like very fundamentally flawed as well, you know.
Sure.
And I guess, like, I don't even know where I'm going with this. It's just like a strange existential thing to think about, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, people died in order for us to be able to drive to Wendy's at 1 a.m. and get a Frosty, you know?
Sick. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. I just... It's almost like, I think, you know, you do the best you can to not contribute to suffering and whatnot, but you're born into the fucking country and circumstances you're born into, and you can do so much, but I'm not going to also dedicate my life to a cause that... is going to take up my entire existence, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you only get one shot at this, so you want to do things that you find fulfilling too, and what can you do then, man? What the fuck can you do?
Yeah.
I could, like, go and just protest full-time about some shit, but I really don't want to.
You actually might be taking away more than you're adding, you know?
You clean your room.
Who fucking knows? I just
How dare you endeavor to run the city when you can't get your own life in order?
I'm trying to think of the rule from the book.
Yeah, well, it's more or less that.
Yeah.
But I mean, the theory goes is that if everyone got their life in order, then there would be no world problems.
Yeah.
But there probably would be still factory farming, because we all have to eat meat like Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
If animals didn't want to get eaten, why did they make themselves so tasty?
Why did God make pigs if you didn't want us to have bacon.
Well, that's true. That's a good thought. I like that.
Cows, from an evolutionary standpoint, are actually a very successful animal. Look at how many of them there are. That's evolution.
True.
They're so delicious that,
If you want to be propagated,
through
it's fucking tasty to us.
through the symbiotic relationship with humans, they've propagated themselves to be.
Dogs really got the better end of that stick, didn't they?
Well, in a natural environment, a cow usually isn't killed quickly. It's like eaten to death,
Yeah, I mean, there's some great counterpoints for sure. It's like, it's way better. People have this weird thing about hunting, but it's way better to put a fucking bullet, in terms of pure like accumulation of suffering.
Yeah.
A bullet through the lungs or heart is so much quicker and better than
Dying of old age, or
either
getting
dying of
eaten.
old age or being like ripped apart by other bigger carnivores.
Yeah.
There's a very strong argument that being like a free-range grass-fed cow that just gets slaughtered is like literally the best version of a cow's life that there can be. You know?
For sure.
But
I don't think you can argue otherwise.
But there isn't enough land to free-range cow all the cows. So.
Yeah. Right.
I look forward to lab-grown meat.
Yeah.
If they can make it like molecularly the same, sweet.
Yeah, well,
I'm on
far
board.
enough.
I'll stop eating like real cow if they can make it in a lab.
Yeah.
This has nothing to do with art.
It kind of does. I think so.
Okay. People, find your own meaning.
I think when it comes to this stuff, art is a lot more complicated than just drawing nice pictures, and I think people need something to say before they can actually make something, like make art that's actually cool. And fundamentally, I think all these, like, if you want to do work for Magic the Gathering or World of Warcraft or
Explain this to me, why is Magic this like thing that everyone wants to, it's like, it seems like that's the goal for everyone.
It's the highest paying illustration, fantasy
And you
illustration
get to
job.
do like
It's
cool shit,
very,
like cool
very
drawings.
consistent. Your work gets shown to a bunch of people.
Okay.
You get these artifacts that end up being worth a lot of money.
High prestige and value and everything else.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to be the.
I don't know why I even fucking asked.
Yeah, it's
The Black Lotus or whatever.
Black Lotus card. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like you get to be in the lineage of all these other great artists and stuff. I
understand.
wouldn't want to be a Magic artist, but there's like a reason people
Me
do it.
either, yeah. Not that I ever could be.
You could, maybe. Potentially.
Come on. I'd have to go back in time like 15 years and dedicate my life to oil painting.
Add a dick to the Black Lotus.
Dude, that would be incredible.
That'd be sick as fuck.
Yeah. Even just to
The
give it
BBL.
Yeah.
like a veiny stem.
Veiny.
BBC would be pretty cool.
Yeah, the BBL, bro.
Big Black Lotus.
Man.
Cool. Well, we've been going for about an hour and a half or so.
What else do you need to know? You have me for however long. I've got the answers. Just ask the questions.
How long is a typical episode? Are we like scraping the barrel here? You're like,
Did
"All right,
we
thanks
win?"
for coming."
I go for,
did we win?
No, well, I go for like the longest one has been like 3.5 hours.
Fuck, we didn't even sort of win. Who was that?
I can't remember.
Fucking then. Wasn't a good 3.5 hours.
I think Scott's was longer.
You think you'll forget this one?
Yeah, for sure.
Fuck. I thought we won. Fuck.
Shit.
Sorry if I keep hitting the table, listener.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people always criticize me for kind of going off topic for like not being art related, but I think that all this stuff actually is art related. You know, it's like you can't do art for 40 years or 60 years or however long you want to do it without thinking about this stuff. At least I don't think you can.
I think at the very least you get maybe a look into the mentality of certain people, and you can maybe relate it to what they make and how they make it.
Yeah, those Flashgitz guys are assholes.
Well, but there is a version of you that you display on your YouTube channel, and a version of you that's like completely different from like whatever that is. You know.
You know, to our credit, I think that we are fairly genuine.
Yeah, I think so.
Publicly. Yeah.
Fairly.
Well, I mean, the missing piece is it's just obviously like an exaggeration, so it isn't boring because I naturally speak very.
I'm not
slowly.
exaggerating anything, dude.
Yeah, but that's true. Yeah.
Well, I think that, I mean, there are people on YouTube who have an ego because they have a certain amount of followers, or they make something that people know about, and they treat people differently because of that, you know, and I don't sense that from you guys, really, you know, and, you know, I don't know. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
We are pretty humble, aren't we?
Yeah, the most humble people I've ever met.
Hell yeah, dude. Yeah, I don't know. It's whilst I still have a low amount of social media followers,
Yeah.
I don't feel justified in an extreme amount of hubris. But as soon as I get those followers, I'm not talking to anyone who doesn't have 100,000 followers on Twitter, at least.
Do you want to come back on this, and you'll be wearing like a completely different outfit? You know, you'll have tattoos, and you know.
I've been thinking about it. You know.
Yeah.
Gits. Cross my fingers.
Absolutely. Oh, and you'll have a septum piercing as well. And,
I'm not like that.
Dude, think of all the heavy metals in your lymph nodes from those gits, though.
I do think, when I think about getting tattoos, I think, like, what's the most amount of coverage with the least amount of ink to minimise the amount of heavy metals that would collect in my lymph nodes, you know? You got to be smart about these things.
You have to do, like a maze puzzle kind of thing.
I think, like, lines like this thick that kind of go like it looks like you've got a full sleeve. It's really a very small amount of ink.
Oh, you're just talking about, like, a thick band around your arm?
No, but, you know what I mean. A thick band that you...
Do that,
I know, it's because they're silly, but...
Yeah. Oh, is that what you're talking about, though? You would get, like, a wrist?
To an extent, but you would make it aesthetically pleasing, all the rest of it, you know?
What does it mean?
Well, again, it wouldn't be just, like, a thick band. Maybe you could do, like, a script or whatever the fuck, I don't know. I haven't thought about it that deeply. I'm just saying minimum amount of ink for most amount of coverage, perceptually, so that you don't collect metal in your lymph nodes.
For tattoos?
Yeah. Because they're bad for you.
Yeah.
They increase inflammation, and I don't want to die.
Would you get a tattoo right now for $100,000?
Duh.
Would you let me choose it?
No.
I would. $100,000?
You get to choose where it goes?
Yeah, I do.
Well, then no.
No face.
Still no.
No, yeah, you take $100,000 and you just take 10 and go get it lasered off.
I don't think it's like particularly...
I'm pretty sure it's cheaper, right? It's cheaper to get something lasered off, right?
Certainly.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
Well, yeah, maybe it's not 10, but it's probably pretty expensive still.
Whatever, dude. You don't respect your own body. That's fine. I happen to value myself.
So it's a...
I don't know, I'm just saying shit
it's
at
just
this
because
point.
no one can do anything about the heavy metals in your lymph nodes for $100,000.
That's true, you can't laser those out.
Can't laser. Well, you can laser cancer out, sort of.
Can you?
Sometimes.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
Why are you doing this, Christian?
Doing what?
All of it.
What
story,
what
bro?
tattoo would you choose?
I'd get a tattoo of
No, for him.
Oh,
for $100,000.
It'd be a spider web under your eye.
Yeah, that sucks.
That might be tricky to laser off as well.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll slip and fix my vision whilst they're at it.
Laser eye. Yeah.
That was my bit. That was my gag.
It's like there's something about doing it yourself that is crucial to being a fulfilled person. You know.
I agree. I think you're totally right. It's it's like a like thinking about it. It's somewhat hard for me to wrap my head around. Like I've got my like initial instincts, and then I've got what I actually like think after rationalizing it. But like my what's the word? Your like first instinct. That's my knee-jerk reaction. It's like I'm like, man, to have those opportunities available to you and not take them is like fuck. I wish I could have had that.
Right.
But having said that, I think what you're saying is like 100% correct, and I think it's the more noble and ultimately like correct path.
Yeah.
It's about ultimately, you know, and I think that's probably difficult for a lot of people to see, you know, especially struggling artists. It's like, oh man, like this guy could have just been doing what I yearn to do so hard, like that fucking dick. Why wouldn't he take that thing? You know, like he doesn't know what he has. But I think there's a lot of difficulty recognizing problems that other people have as real, just because their circumstances are different than you. Like I remember there was fucking Bill Burr's wife was complaining about that Hoarders show.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I don't care about these people. They have all this stuff. You know, like there's people in real poverty, and these people, their problem is they're not in poverty, but they have so much stuff. But it's like you could take the same human being, and if they walked the exact same path as the person with the hoarding problem, they would have that problem, and it would be a real problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like your perspective and your emotions are real to you and like inescapable, and like this is your solution to that problem. And that's,
absolutely. When I found that like that was like when I was around those fancy business people all the time, I felt fucking shitty. I was depressed, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't feel fulfilling, you know, in the way that you would hope it to, at least, you know.
Yeah.
And I found out living in the van, like sleeping in parking lots, doing things like being in like Yellowstone, doing things that are like hard. Like I felt like some of the best times of my life have been in a van, just like in the middle of nowhere, completely by myself, you know. And looking at it from that perspective, it's never about the success. Like, success is shallow, you know, money is shallow. And I think it's easy to say that from a point of privilege, which is part of the reason why it's, like, difficult to really commit to that idea. But, like, you know, if you're drowning, right, it's like the first thing you want to do is, like, just get out from drowning. But if you're in the middle of the ocean, you need to, like, figure out everything else then, you know?
Yeah.
It's hard to focus on anything when you're drowning, but...
I would definitely say, like, when you go from, like, you know, not having any money to being able to just, like, take care of the basic shit, like rent and food and all that, that's, like, the difference in that mindset of there to there is, like, so fucking big. That's, like, huge.
Yeah.
But, you're right, as soon as you get past that point, it's just, like... all the money in the world is not necessarily going to make you fulfilled and happy, for sure.
And part of the danger of figuring out your rent and stuff is that you increase the scale of your life and how much money you spend with the amount of money you make. You know? And I would meet people who would make $500,000 or $600,000 a year who would spend all of it every year.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you fucking spend $60,000 a month or whatever it is? Just on like bullshit, you know?
Lifestyle creep, for sure. Yeah.
And it's like that does happen, and I think that me living in a van, like I have a tendency to just buy shit, like kind of.
Right.
I think in the same way that everybody does. It's like living in a van keeps my life extremely simple. You know, it's like I have to like be gracious for what I have. I have to like use the space that I have very intentionally. You know.
Yeah, really, this whole thing is like the mindfulness thing.
Yeah.
I mean, minimalism.
Yeah, well, it is mindfulness. It's like
right.
I can't, you know, trying to be very intentional with the way I spend my money and my time and who I am, and like it just forces you, like admitting that I am flawed. I am a flawed human being. This lifestyle forces me to be more the person I want to be. You know, like a little bit less materialistic, a little bit less.
Who are you snorting at?
I was just remembering Sam Harris was in that movie, the minimalism thing.
Oh yeah.
But they like they chose to put him in a huge room, and the way he was mic'd is he was like echoey.
Right.
So he was just like this weird voice of God figure, you know, talking about mindfulness in the minimalism movie. But,
kind of ironic.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, man, I think it's very. It would have been easy, maybe, to just take the opportunities, and. But I think you made the right call for sure. Not that it's really my place to say anything, but
I think you're. I talked to Scott a lot about this. It's like, have you talked to him about Riot at all? His favorite Riot?
Probably.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, you know, Riot for him was this place of like, oh, they give you free food, all these amazing people are there, all this like,
oh, it's like a trap,
making lots of money and all this stuff, and then you get there and it's like, oh shit, this is like not it, you know, this is not fulfilling, you know, and it's almost like that could be existentially damning because you're like, oh, this is the best place, and I still don't feel fulfilled, you know.
Yeah.
I think to tie it all back to what we like really kicks this conversation off with is everyone seems to have the perception that the grass is greener in terms of like all those people who have those stable jobs in animation or art or whatever at those studios, 9 to 5 or whatever the time frame is, all wish they were doing like independent shit, and the independent people wish they had like more stability and were maybe like doing that sometimes, whatever. But I just think it's inherent, man. You just got to find the fulfillment where you can. And
well, I think it's gratitude. That's like the secret sauce to being a fulfilled person or just a happy person. It's like be gracious for what you have, because you probably have a lot, you know.
At least we're not drowning in mud at Passchendaele.
Yeah, I knew that was coming up.
I've been teeing it up for the whole podcast.
I have no idea what Passchendaele is.
Taking my little fucking golf club and readying the swing. It's
really,
let me tell you about Passchendaele.
Go ahead. Tom loves Passchendaele.
I love Passchendaele. So in World War I, you know, lots of fighting, and Passchendaele was a particularly gross one where, from all the shelling and rain and shit, the mud was all churned up, and basically like English soldiers and that, and I guess whoever they're fighting, Germans, drowning in the mud, you know. And it's like, you think about shit like that only a couple generations or a few generations removed, and it's like, fuck, dude, life's pretty sweet.
Yeah. Well, and I guess even from that perspective, there's also stuff to be thankful for, you know. Which
at least I'm gonna.
At least I die now instead of getting gangrene and
No.
slowly rotting away.
What's the fuck? This joke would have been great about 10 seconds ago. Something about, you know, what you put on fucking God. What is wrong with my brain? Soil to like manure
fertilizer.
At least I'm fertilizing the ground.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Fuck me. Good God.
Some other soldiers had meaningless deaths. This will be.
I'm going to make flowers.
I'm going to turn into a.
I had some sunflower seeds in my pocket. Perhaps I will feed the seeds and become a pretty flower that a bird will eat.
Some cows are going to graze off this. And
sorry. Please tell me what those men could have been thankful for in that moment.
I sound like an asshole saying it, but it totally just like unaware and just horrible. But I think it's like part of like the religious perspective, and just like like is to be thankful for everything that you have. Like there's always.
I don't think you need to be religious for that either.
Well, even if like, have you guys ever read A Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl?
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard of it? So it's this guy named Viktor Frankl who was in the Holocaust. And he was in Auschwitz, and his entire family was killed, and he survived the entire thing, but obviously a lot of horrible
he was
stuff.
A god.
Yeah, he was a god. Yeah, he is a god. Yeah. Well, but like a lot of horrible stuff happened to this guy. Yeah. He was still able to find some amount of meaning, or whatever you want to call it, in this horrible life, you know. And it's a lot more complicated. Like, I'm not saying if you're like being abused.
Yeah, he's lying, dude.
Yeah.
Well, he's just being a good dude and being inspirational.
But I guess what he was saying, like, it wasn't.
Say that was a joke. I don't think he's really lying.
But that is actually a reasonable thing to say. It's like, oh, he's full of shit, you know. It's like, fuck that guy, you know. But
you know.
But I think it's like,
I don't know.
Or maybe it's not that bad, or whatever, you know.
I'm sure he's genuine in what he's saying.
Well, it's less so about being thankful for it. It's about like finding enough meaning in your life to push through the entire. Like, I think Carl Jung said, if you have a why to your life, you can figure out anyhow. You know. And there are people that have really nice lives that earn tons of money that kill themselves. You know.
Of course.
And it's like, why did Viktor Frankl not kill himself? And why do people who are billionaires kill themselves? You know?
Yeah.
It's like, there's a fucking answer to that. And
again, probably a incomprehensibly multifaceted answer.
But,
I think an inaccurate enough answer is that they didn't have a why, you know.
Sure.
It probably applies.
Yeah, it's very, very.
There's just so much at play. Fucking like genetics and the environment they were born in, and like it's just like, I don't know. Do you sometimes just feel way too fucking dumb to be answering these questions? Because I do.
Well, when I don't know, I feel like I am definitely a fucking idiot, and everything I'm saying is definitely.
It's like we make cartoons.
Yeah,
but there's obviously a real trend of very successful people being completely unfulfilled.
There's probably also, like, again, that confirmation bias. Like, how many people who are super successful aren't like, sad and complaining about that shit?
Okay, sure, but, I mean, you'll take many other stereotypes as having...
Well, actually, to be fair, thinking about it, you know, Western countries have more depression and stuff than, like, shitty third world conditions, and you would think why. But again, I think that just goes back to that, like...
the meaning.
Moving away from like our evolved circumstances. You put like sorry to interrupt, you put an orca in SeaWorld, you know, like in a little tank or whatever, you take it away from its like evolved state of being, and like its fin goes floppy and it gets sad.
Well, and it takes away the why from their life, you know.
Right.
So the why in something new is generally something that's inbuilt and very primal, you know. And I think that to deny that part of yourself is to deny a fundamental part of like just who you are in general, you know. And it's like for Viktor Frankl, his why was a lot of like doing this for the ideal of what my wife would have wanted for me, or like I'm doing this for.
Fuck, dude. Heavy.
Well, and it's like, I think it's really important to find those whys in people's lives, and like, again, Jordan Peterson said this. It's like the real question isn't why people do drugs. That's obvious. The question is, why isn't everyone addicted to heroin? You know, so it's like, seriously, it's like, why not just fucking?
Well, yeah, there's that whole rat cage thing, you know, where they trained rats to be able to get like crack water or something. Like there's a water bottle.
Doesn't this doesn't this concert start in 15 minutes?
What time is it? Yeah, it does. Do you want to wrap it up?
Probably should, yeah.
Okay. Cool. Do you want to finish your thought about the rat?
Rats are sweet.
Rats are fucking sick.
They're pretty clever.
Rats are cool.
We've done lots of experiments on them that have helped us. That's cool.
Yeah. Basically, the rat that was in a tiny cage became addicted to the cocaine water. Yeah. And the one that was put in like a rat heaven where there's lots of lady rats to fuck and like a wheel and stuff. Like
just did it on weekends.
He has, basically. He's a recreational
just
cocaine
bang a few
water.
packets.
Yeah.
Exactly. Had some beer. I feel you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think the closing thought is like, if you just live a fulfilling life and like do the things that you're meant to do as a human being, that's going to be a lot more fulfilling for you in the long run than just pursuing the highs. You know? And it's like if you guys only just if you just dedicated your life to just being animators and nothing else, like it might not be that great of a decision. It's like if you gave up having friends and family and like kids and everything in order to just make videos that get 10 million views, it's like, okay, that is probably gonna, you know, yield some negative results at some point.
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah, cool. Well, we figured it out.
We did it.
Cool. Okay,
boys. You're gonna have to.
How's
Uh-oh.